This episode is brought to you by Iams Pet Food. When you choose Iams dry dog or cat food, you can see a difference in your pet with your own eyes. Healthy energy in 5 days, healthy digestion in 10 days, and healthy skin and coat in just 25 days. Satisfaction for you and them. Guaranteed or your money back. Feed Iams dry dog or cat food and see a visible difference. Visit iams.com/difference to learn more.
Great days start with great underwear. So if you're looking for something special, give Tommy John and gift a better day. Everything we make is meticulously crafted from breathable stretch fabric for the perfect fit, including our sleepwear for him and her. It feels good to give, but it feels great to give Tommy John. Find something for everyone and pick up something for yourself. Because at Tommy John, greatness is in our very fabric. Shop TommyJohn.com/Spotify right now for 25% off your first order. TommyJohn.com/Spotify. See site for details.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Beaver Banter podcast. I'm Nick Daschel and I cover Oregon State football for the Oregonian and OregonLive. Did the Beavers take a peek at rock bottom Saturday? It kind of looked that way on both sides of the ball. They were pretty ineffective in a 28-0 loss at Air Force. It is the Beavers' 5th consecutive loss. The season is probably down to 2 more games unless the Beavers can find a way to spring a couple of upsets here and get to 6 wins. Joining me now, as always, is former Oregon State defensive end Isaac Hodgins. Isaac, where did you watch the game?
Well, I watched the game from home. I honestly didn't know which game I wanted to turn off, which I wanted to turn off most, either the Mike Tyson and Jake Paul fight or the Air Force Oregon State game, because I don't know. I was tempted to turn off the Oregon State game if it wasn't for this. If it wasn't for this podcast, I probably would have tuned out just because of my anger and fury that game. But to get shut out by our Air Force, I didn't even think I couldn't even. I don't think either of us could have predicted that. So,
no, I thought they'd win. I thought it'd be I thought it'd be close. I thought they'd win.
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming. But then I went into it thinking, Gulbranson was probably going to play, and
right.
And that was a factor for sure. But
was there any insider information you could garner on that, or?
Well, I think I know, but I don't want to say unless I can confirm it. So it's medical from what I understand. It's not a he's mad or I think it's medical. So
yeah. Did you so saw
it's
something?
It's not anything more nefarious than that. It's that. So
yeah. That was definitely unfortunate to see him not.
I thought I'd start off with is what I was at the game obviously, and Air Force is I'm not gonna say it's unique, but it's certainly different than most stadiums you go to. I was standing in the end, to the back of the end zone. In the fourth quarter, Air Force scores, and then all of a sudden these roughly 500, fully dressed airmen come running out of the stands, and they practically run over you. They're in such a hurry to get to the back of the end zone and do 28 push-ups. I'm just going, man.
Jeez.
They were into it. And
was the student section pretty lively or what?
Oh yeah, they were rolling, and they were. It was a pretty good sized crowd, but they're all in their dress blues, and
yeah,
there was, but yeah, that was kind of fun to watch. Even though, like I said, I almost got killed getting run over, but.
Yeah.
All the signs at the place, there's a couple of signs there that remind you you're at 6,600 feet.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, there's one right next to the locker room right as the visitors come out. I'm sure it's there for a reason to remind you that, you're going to be sucking.
It's
you're going to be sucking it
mental warfare, hearts and minds.
Right. And then the band, it's kind of cool watching the bands, Oregon State and Air Force bands collaborate on music. I watched it before. I was there a couple hours early in the stadium. I was watching some of that. And you just felt like there's a lot of pride on the line at that stadium. And the stadium was really clean too. It's just, all the signage, everything just felt clean at that place. But
I'm sure the flyover didn't hurt either, huh?
Oh yeah. Except, it kind of came out of I thought it was going to go right over the top of the field. They kind of came over the top of the press box, and so you didn't get to see the full effect of it. But yeah, it was cool for sure. I mean, I had some video of it, but
Yeah.
So of all the stadiums you visited, over your career, which one kind of stood out to you? And you were.
I think the ones that stood out to me most, I was always sad that I couldn't go to the USC one. I always wanted to play in that stadium. I would say just the best stadiums I would say I liked playing in the most were obviously my first ever college football game at Ohio State. Like the field shaking and it's just red and white everywhere.
Yeah.
And then I really liked playing at Arizona State. I loved playing on real grass and, it was hot. It was just, we always played them during the time of year where it's always raining. And then you get off the tarmac and it's 75, and you're sun tanning during the day waiting for this night game. But I really like their facilities and everything. Like we get to walk past their weight room and they have in their weight room, it says Faith Family Football. So I thought that was really cool. And then I think Colorado is a super cool place to play too. Obviously grass field and whatnot. And I don't know, their stadium's pretty unique. So I would say those are kind of my top three.
So the USC game, did you even go to that or
no? I was at home watching on TV. I was sad I missed that one for sure. Especially it was such a historic game for Oregon State too. I was like, man, I wish I was part of that.
Yeah, I think I remember it was like 45-27 or something like that. It was
awesome.
Kind of one-sided for the old Beavs. Yeah, you played at Arizona too, didn't you? Did you? I mean,
I traveled to that game last year, but I didn't play. But I have played in Arizona Stadium.
Yeah, 2019. You
2019,
played down there.
I played there. Yeah.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah.
The USC one is funny because Coach Mack, our strength staff, they're in charge of the music that's played at practice. The only song that played that entire week leading up to the USC game was their fight song. Everyone knows their Trojan song. All day, on repeat, every single day. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Made you hate it.
I mean, of the stadiums Oregon State played regularly, and now it's a different rotation, obviously, but I mean, the Rose Bowl is that place is.
Oh yeah, I forgot that one. Their locker room was awesome. I mean, it's like NFL caliber locker room, right? So I mean, that was my favorite locker room for sure. Because sometimes you go to these stadiums. Actually, all the time you go to these stadiums, the visiting locker room is horrible. Like it's so bad. It's just super tight, and it's. I mean, but we went to the Rose Bowl, man. It was beautiful.
Of course, your number one favorite stadium was Autzen, I'm sure, but
their visiting locker room is the worst. The worst.
Well, their post game media is not good either. Outside, it's in like this tent outside your locker room.
Yeah,
it's not good either. Yeah. What was the worst stadium you ever for locker rooms of the 6 years? What was the worst one?
The worst situation was Utah 2020 because they were doing the whole renovation on their stadium, right? There wasn't even a building we were in. It was like a pop-up, like somehow insulated tent.
Yeah.
It was just a big white tent, and your bathroom that you could use was just like a porta potty, and then the showers were like one of the showers that they have like in a trailer type of deal. So it's like a trailer shower or something. It was horrible. That was the worst visiting kind of locker room experience ever. It was just gross and just bad.
I mean, the maybe not the locker room, but the worst setup to me of the years you were there, Fresno State had to be pretty close to the top.
Fresno State wasn't too bad
because you're walking from the stadium to the locker room, and all you got are fans just cussing you out.
Oh
just dog cussing you the
that's
entire
fun
time.
As a player. As a player, when you're walking and you got the opposing fans cussing you out, and little 10-year-olds flipping you the bird. I mean, that's like motivation right there. I mean, get you pumped, especially after you win a tight game like we won. I mean, that's the best. It's the best.
Yeah, maybe for guys like you, but there's other guys I noticed on your team that didn't take it too well.
Yeah.
And there were coaches that had to pull them away and get them into the locker room because they wanted to have a piece of somebody.
Guys like me, Jake Levingood, Taliesin, we're kind of psychopaths. So, we enjoy it.
I mean, if you take it the right way, you just think it's funny. I mean, that'd be, it would be good, I guess.
Yeah.
Of course, if you had lost that game, walking to the locker room, you wouldn't have felt the same way though.
Yeah, it'd be a heck of a lot worse. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But man, it's the best.
Yeah. Well, we've delayed long enough here. I thought I was going to start here with I wrote some takeaways from the game. I wrote them while I was coming back on the plane today, and I thought I'd run some of them by you just to see kind of what you thought. But
okay.
And a lot of them really aren't necessarily to have to do with the game. But I just thought, the first one I kind of walked about is just it's just kind of the feeling of hopelessness, and that I guess Trent came into he met with the team early on before after he got the job and said, I think we got a CFP roster, we can make a run at it. And then even in the summer I asked him, do you still believe this is a college football playoff, a team that could make a run at it? Oh yeah. Well, I mean, that doesn't even come close to being true. I mean, what do you think he missed?
I think the biggest thing everyone kind of missed was the depth. I think the depth of the team just wasn't there, right? Like one or two injuries and just like everything kind of collapsed. Like after Jam got hurt, we had a key offensive lineman get hurt. And then for a stretch of a few games, we had some guys on defense who were missing. I think just the depth of our team just wasn't college football playoff ready whatsoever. Not even bowl game eligible ready, right? Like you've got to have depth to where it's like, hey, next man up, there's no drop off. I can't say the same thing is true for this team. And obviously that comes with the territory of kind of, you have so many guys leave, so many experienced guys leave. Even the guys who are the number one for the majority of this team who are starters, I mean, they don't have a ton of experience. So then you go to your number two guy, they have even less experience, and they're just, the depth wasn't there, I think, this season.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do you think maybe he was just, I don't want to say caught up in the moment of trying to get this thing going, trying to sell the players on a vision, but I mean, maybe in retrospect, you go, let's see how this thing comes together. And, I believe, we got a good team, but, I don't really, until we see it on the field, I don't know. It just felt like, and fans are kind of, they're upset, obviously, because they were sold that, hey, we're going to be this team. And, that was obviously not even close to accurate. Now, I would say that had he said, yeah, I think we can make a run at a bowl game, I mean, everybody would have bought that. That felt doable. And
right. But I mean, what coach or CEO, because that's what he is. He's a CEO, right? Like, who's going to set that as the bar? Like, yeah, maybe we could make a bowl game. You know what I mean? Like, you kind of have to say, like, hey, this is a championship season. Like, I mean, you understand. I think he fully understood. I mean, Coach Bray is super football smart. I think he fully understood kind of what he was going into this year. But, at the same time, you got to sell a vision. And, like, you can, despite not maybe having the exact talent or experience level or depth you may need to make a run, crazier things have happened. I mean, like, look at Army. They're undefeated right now. Yeah. Like, I think you really did have a chance to possibly make that run if you kept Oregon a little tighter, and then you kept this momentum rolling from this. I mean, we're on a hot streak at the beginning of the season. If you just kept that rolling, but I think those big injuries at those key points kind of stopped the momentum we had and just shut us down. So I think there was some hope, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think what should have, what was missed was this team just didn't have enough senior experienced players on. And you've seen that from Cal, UNLV, you're going to see it from Boise State, Washington State, Oregon. They've got veteran guys at a lot of positions, and Oregon State didn't have that. And even if you believe these guys were going to be good, I mean, it still pays off if you've got guys that have been in the fire and have done this before. And that seems like what was missed to me. But I
think it's also having the right guys who've kind of been in the fire, right? Like, I mean, you have Josh Bray, you know, super experienced and kind of carry this offensive line, but you know, that's not really. It's great for the team culture, but like at the end of the day, you got to be able to throw the ball. You got to be able to catch the ball, right? You got to be able to protect this guy. You're the guy who's behind you, whoever it is. You know, at this point, we don't really know. We kind of think we know we have a guy, but you know, I'm not too confident about who that it's going to be for the next two games. But you got to be able to protect this guy, and like you kind of said, I just think you need to have the experience in the right places, right? I don't think we had that.
Well, then, the next question, the next thing I went to was coaching. You know, the question is it coaching? And I can't really say. You know, I'm not there every day. I don't know what's going on behind closed doors. I don't. You know, fans obviously don't know either. You know, fans look at the sideline and see guys down a little bit, and they immediately think, "Oh, they've checked out. They're quitting." I mean, they don't know what's going on with players on the sideline unless they're punching each other or something. I mean, that something that obvious maybe, but I mean, you know, there's so much stuff that goes on you just don't know about. But are there some signs that you would look for that you would wonder if, you know, the coaching is getting through to the players?
Yeah, I think the main thing is just if the same mistakes are happening on tape and on film. And like, honestly, I'd have to like sit down and really break down the film to see it. But, you know, coaching at its finest is simply you are just facilitating, hey, like the growth of a player, of an individual. If a player isn't able to take your coaching and then apply it and not make the same mistake again, either one, he's not coachable and it's the player, or two, he's not being coached right. So I think that's what I would look at most, is if a person is making the same mistakes over and over and over and over again, that could be a possible indicator of like, hey, some coaching is wrong.
Yeah.
But I also think of it strategically, just like, you know, I don't know how fast or soon they knew that Ben Gulbranson wasn't going to play, but I think at that moment where you know he's not playing, you gotta make a plan and go forward with it. It didn't seem like there was a plan, you know, because you were switching quarterbacks every series, unless that was the plan, and I don't think that's a good plan. Unless, you know, it's a good plan if you're doing a scrimmage. I don't think it's a good plan if you're playing a football game and you're trying to actually win. So I just think that plan wasn't good of switching the quarterbacks back and forth. And then on TV, you know, but before the second half started, or I think with the first drive of the second half, one of the reporters asked Coach Bray, like, hey, what was the decision to make, you know, what quarterback are you running with? He's like, oh, yeah, Jabari Johnson. He showed us better in practice. He showed us better looks in practice, you know, and I was just like, he just kind of said it like, oh, we needed to go with a guy, so we picked the guy. You know, just like we just picked a guy to go with. Like, I don't know how I felt about that decision and just the game.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, and maybe that's where some of the coaching staff's inexperience is coming in. Trent's in his first year as head coach. You know, Gundy's really in his first year as a coordinator. You know, some guys on the defensive side that haven't really, you know, been at their particular position, you know, all that long. You kind of wonder if, you know, that inexperience is, you know, like the players, it's a factor.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure all like you said, I don't know what's going on day to day. But I just think strategically what was like, I mean, we could all look back, right? Hindsight's 2020, be like, oh, that was a bad decision, right? You know, because we saw the outcome of the game. But I just know as a player, and then I think Coach Bray knows as a player, like when you don't have like the guy at quarterback and you don't have like a solid plan, it's just kind of like, what's the roles here? Like, who do I listen to? Like, what's going on here? And I just kind of felt like that was the vibe of the game of just like, we're just gonna, you know, I feel like you got to go into the game like, hey, we're rolling with number 4 or we're rolling with number 5. Like, we're picking one and we're rolling with them. You know, and they did that second half, right? They picked a person, they rolled with them. I think you just got to do that the whole game. I think that person should have been McCoy because he had actually won games previously this year for them. So that's who I would naturally go with.
Yeah, maybe. He looks like his confidence is just shot. He just doesn't, he's not the same guy that we saw a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I thought he looked more confident and comfortable than number 5 just because, you know, Johnson, it was like he was doing his first read and he just take the ball down and just run, just take off. It was just like, you know, honestly, if I'm a defense playing the Oregon State Beavers offense, I'm just bringing the house. I'm going to just blitz these guys every play because they can't. If their number 1 wide receiver is not, we're going to just play tight coverage for 1 to 2 seconds and our pressure is going to get home. Just because you just saw both quarterbacks were just panicking under pressure, just completely shutting down, dropping their eyes and just trying to run. And I mean, that seems like
Have you watched the receivers to see, do you think they're getting open? I mean, it's just, Trent Walker's got 65 catches out of the receivers have 119 catches. I'm not counting tight ends. He has 65 of their 119 catches. I mean, I know they're young there, but gosh, that's not good.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if it's like they're just not getting – I mean, at the end of the day, like there's athletes all across the board, but like you've got to get separation or you got to win at the point of like contest, like at the point of contest, right? Like if the defensive back is on you, like you got to win the one-on-one. And I don't see a lot of one-on-ones being made, like being won. And then I just see a lot of like you're not helping the quarterback. Like that one ball where he does throw it on target and like you're just dropping the ball. It's like, what are we doing? I don't know. It just seems like everyone's morale is kind of shot and just down, just across the board. That's
I mean,
and that to me.
And that kind of goes for the defensive side too on those 50-50 balls. I thought there were, you know, Air Force only threw 6 balls yesterday, but I felt like there's like 3 or 4 of them that were 50-50s. They won every one of them.
Right. And that's something you look at as a team and you're just like, we're not winning our one-on-ones. Like we're not lining up against this guy. Like I'm going to beat you in this one-on-one matchup, this play right here, right now. And it shows. Like, I mean, Air Force was 8 for 12 on third downs and they were 1 for 1 on fourth down. Like that's losing football. You know, that is just, they're over 60%. They're close to 70% conversion rate on third down. Like that's horrible.
Yeah. Well, some of the issue though is offensively.
You're not
earlier in the year
it was a defense.
they were getting 3rd and 3s and 3rd and 2s. Now they're running a lot of 3rd and 7s and 3rd and 10s and 3rd and 12s, and so the first and second down they're not winning in those downs and they're getting killed, you know, on third down. Yeah,
and then when you only have the ball for what? I think the whole game we had a possession of 18 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
Like you're on the field the whole entire game as a defense. Like and this is a physical game. Like this is like, hey, buckle your chin strap, bite down on your mouth guard, bow up your neck, because this is going to be, hey, we're hitting you in the face every single play. And that wore us down obviously over the long haul. But I think that's the problem of it not being able to get the run game going. You know, you're not in these third and manageable positions, and you don't have an offense that can handle 3rd and 10. Like what play is Oregon State going to run to convert a 3rd and 10? have you seen all year? You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel comfortable in that position. I'm not.
Well,
even
there's
on
only
the
two
team.
guys. There's only two guys they seem to be able to rely on is Jermaine Terry and Trent Walker. I mean, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, there's just
the rest of them occasionally make a play. But I just wonder, are they getting? Are you seeing them getting separated from their guy, or
no.
and the quarterback's not finding them, or
I just think the pure answer is no. I'm not seeing separation, but also from where I'm watching, all I'm seeing is kind of the quarterback under panic, under duress the whole entire game. You know what I mean? So it's kind of hard to tell. Like, you're not really letting routes and plays develop because you're getting hit, you're getting sacked every other play. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's tough.
Is some of that an O-line issue too?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an O-line issue, honestly. I'll just be candid. I've played against a lot of the guys on the offensive line, and so I definitely think there was a lot of one-on-ones that were lost up front. And I think also it's a combination of that, and they're bringing 6-7 guys a play. You know what I mean? In these third down situations, when Air Force brings 6 guys, you only got 5 guys to block, or a running back who's kind of checking in but wants to get out on the route. It could go either way, but yeah, I definitely don't feel confident about anything right now about Oregon State football. You know,
we're talking about a defense that going into yesterday's game had 8 sacks all season. Air Force, they had 5 yesterday.
Yeah,
I mean, they darn near had a season's worth in one game.
Yeah,
they. What's going to happen when they play Boise State, which is number 2 in the country in sacks?
Right.
I mean,
and that was kind of, I talked with I have a friend who's on the Air Force defensive line. He's actually really good. I think he's a number 1. He was telling me he's the number 1 PFF rated defensive tackle in the country. Like he's a good player. And I saw him. He was doing some good stuff against us. But that was just kind of his sense too. It was like, he just felt like Oregon State had no game plan going into the game. It was just kind of like Air Force could just tee off and do whatever they wanted. You know what I mean? Like they were out there having fun and just flying around, and it showed. Like they were playing fast, they were playing physical. It looked like Air Force was the Pac-12 team, and then Oregon State was the Mountain West team coming in. That's how it looked.
And I want to be able to say here as well. I know this crushes you to even have to talk about this stuff, because I mean, you don't want to talk about. You don't want to talk crap about, your former team, but I mean, it's just so obvious that I mean, nobody's looking to pile on Trent Bray or the offensive coordinator or the offensive line, but it just is what it is right now. It's not working.
And I love those guys, and I obviously will always love Coach Bray and, every offensive lineman on that team, the ones that I know at least. But, what we called it was the truth room. And obviously this isn't the truth room, but we're just two old farts, talking about what we see on the TV. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things. Like you said, you just kind of can't hide it. I mean, when teams are just able to go out there and do whatever they want, like they impose their will on us yesterday. And it's back to the drawing board, obviously.
Yeah. Well, and then I got into a little bit, it's not going to be long. We're into December, and come December, you're going to have to sign a new class. And then, that first week, I think there's got to be a lot of hard conversations with guys. Are you, do you fit our program or not? And I got to believe there's some guys that are just going to have to go, not really. And other guys, they have to decide, okay, you look like you're a guy that, we can, we need for next year and 26 and whatnot. But then beyond that, they're going to have to hit the transfer portal hard.
Yeah.
And get some dudes.
That's what I love about Coach Bray, and that's why I think he was a good pick for this team, to lead this team, and I still think he's a good person to lead this team. Like, this is the long game here. Like, he's going to build a culture that can build this program back up. And if I'm Coach Bray, what I would like to do is I'm in Coach Candido's ear. I'm in the strength coach's ears. And I'm like, hey, keep your eyes out, keep your ears open. Who are the guys that need to go? Because that's the beautiful thing about the position that the Oregon State Beavers are in right now. The cream, and being the cream, let's say is the bad guys. Like they're going to rise to the top. The cream rises to the top. The guys who you need to get out of your program, they're going to rise up. You're going to see them. It's going to be plain. It's going to be obvious. And I think there's no more obvious place to see it than in the weight room. Because in the weight room, there's no coaches there. There's no position coaches there, right? So there's no one who's like, oh, I need to just show for my position coach so I get more playing time, right? You're getting guys real, how they act, what they want to do, what their conversations are like. Like, we're going to see who are the guys who are bringing down this program. Like, let's get them out of here. And that was the biggest thing I saw when I was on losing teams. Those guys always reveal themselves, and you got to get rid of them. You got to cut them out. And obviously you got to hit the transfer portal hard. You got to do good recruiting. And I know Coach Bray's a hell of a recruiter. So I think there's hope for this program.
I almost think it'd be better for this team not to get to a bowl game from the standpoint of just make December about getting this program right again.
Yeah.
A bowl game feels like, you got the coaching staff and players sort of distracted with the bowl, and when you really need to work on what do we really want to look like in 25, and get the coaches out hitting the ground running with transfers and thinking about everything other than 15 bowl practices.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's some value to those practices, but I feel like there's more value right now to, just taking a deep breath and figuring out what the hell is going wrong here.
Right. And I think that's going to have to be, a lot of long nights, I mean, you'll see Coach Bray's car probably in the parking lot all day, all night for the next whatever amount of months, as long as he's not recruiting, you know what I mean? And so I kind of agree. I also think you gotta build up these guys to get some more confidence in themselves. I think those bowl practices could help. And then I also think, attending a bowl game and kind of salvaging the most you can from the season could help with recruiting. So I see kind of both sides. But obviously, as a coach, you don't want to throw in the towel and just be like, let's just start building for next year. Even though naturally that's what you want to do, right? Naturally, that's what we all think. Like, let's just cut the season right now and just start recruiting. You know what I mean? Yeah. But you just can't.
I mean, as a coach, obviously you can't say that, but
yeah,
outsiders, we can say that because, it feels like that's what needs to happen. And privately, there might be some guys saying that too, but they can't say it publicly.
Yeah. And I think, honestly, more of what we need to do than hit the transfer portals, we need to start hitting the donor portal or whatever it is. We need to start finding some donors and getting some alumni to start pouring back into this NIL collective so we could hit these high school kids up who were expecting Lamborghinis when they show up on campus. You know what I mean?
It's world. Yeah, if you got a guy that wants a Lamborghini right out of high school, I don't know. That was the other thing I was going to ask you. You've dealt with, damnation a little bit, and you talk to guys obviously that have to. I mean, do you feel like that the resources are there to, strike, or do they need a lot more money to make?
I think the resources can be there. It just seems like whoever's in, I don't know. It seems like whoever's in charge of it, it's kind of like, I don't know. That's a whole nother conversation. I don't want to open that can of worms. Yeah, it's probably a different ball game too, because I think the school can directly start paying players now, right?
Not quite, but they're getting there.
Yeah. So I think when that
can bring it in house, I think starting next year, but still, I don't think this off season's still about the collective, and it could be for the future too. There's some nuances to bringing it in house versus keeping it outside that have to be figured out. But
I think it's tough to honestly, like from my perspective, I think it's also tough just, the world of Oregon State as it is. What's hard about Oregon State football is you kind of almost have to rebuild the program every single time you get a new coach or something changes, because there's not that like school support that's supporting the football program. It's more of just like, I was pumped when I forget who was the president. He came from LSU, I believe, and then he came.
Oh, F. King Alexander.
Yeah, and then he got fired from some scandal that he was a part of at LSU. But that was the only time my entire college football career where the president of the university came to a football practice. Like he came to a football practice, and after practice introduced himself. Like said he's going to go all in on our football program. He's going to make our football program good. Like he's going to invest in it, all this kind of stuff, right? I never saw that before with any other school president. And it's just like that's the main problem, in my opinion. There's not enough school support to the football program. And honestly, I think that's why they lose the Coach Smiths of the world. And because these guys are competitive, they want to go win a college football playoff. They want to go win a championship. A college football championship, but you can't without the support of your school. And so, I think there's a bigger problem overall, but that's just my little soapbox.
Yeah, I just don't, but if you got to go pay a guy $200,000, let's say, to get yourself I don't know. Well, quarterbacks go for, a good quarterback. I mean, we've been hearing that the Washington State quarterback, John Mateer, has been offered $1 million.
Oh, yeah. I don't think we have that money.
No,
I'll be frank about that.
Could you get, but to get a quarterback at Oregon State, you probably still got to pay somebody $500,000.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and I don't know, do they have those, is that, I don't know. And trying to get those answers out of anybody, forget it. I mean, I've been saying we need more transparency on this stuff. If I'm a fan, I don't want you saying, we need more of your money. Well, how much do you need? Well, we just need more money.
Right.
I just feel like that's not good enough. I need a number.
Yeah.
What do you need?
I agree. So, we need a damn collective efficiency group or something.
I don't know what they need.
Maybe me and Nick Daschel could be the heads.
We're getting out of it, but a couple things about a couple of things I wrote about was the quarterback position. It's just become, it's just a mess right now, and I don't know that anything's going to get solved between now and the end of the season. I think, from what I've seen, the only thing that will change is if Ben Gulbertson comes back, and whether that happens, I don't know. But if he does come back, I feel like, they got a shot to move the ball down the field. He's got to eliminate a lot of some of those mistakes he made against San Jose State, but I think he gives them their best chance to do something. The other two, I just don't know. I don't know. I could be wrong, though.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. At this point, it's kind of like who gives you the best chance. But even at this point, it's kind of like no one of the quarterbacks has gotten, other than McCoy, has gotten enough playing time throughout the season to be able to be like, hey, I feel confident and comfortable with their decision-making ability on the field. Because at this point, most quarterbacks have 8-9 games under their belt, and they're playing their best football right now. It's like we're kind of on the downtrend of that.
Yeah, another one I wrote about was the receivers. We kind of touched on that already. I felt like, and then the defense, I sort of felt like they got lost yesterday in the criticism because the offense was so bad. It felt like we forgot they didn't really show up that well either. But they did have some moments. There were Dexter Foster had he had 13 tackles. I think Skylar Thomas had 11. But I mean, they just lost first and second down way too many times yesterday, and gave Air Force,
I think the only thing I'm seeing defensively is just the fundamentals of like tackling. It's just like something so simple of just like, hey, we need to get this guy on the ground and stop letting him leak yards. I just saw too many times people were leaking yards after first contact. It was just didn't look like good, fun, foundational defensive football.
I mean, I was talking to Dexter Foster after the game, and he said, we're going to go home and flush this one and, move on to, and I said, you sure you want to flush this game? I mean, it feels like, there's some things you could probably learn out of this. He said, well, yeah, but we're never going to play a team that runs this offense, which is fair. But still, I mean, there's still some things that you do in every game that you could take out of this one. And one is obviously tackling.
I think the tackling's been a problem the whole season, in my opinion. It just doesn't look sound. And I think that's got to be something they go back to the drawing boards and they start drilling it again in practice, which is hard because, we live in a day and age where you could only tackle so much in practice.
Yeah.
You really can't at this point of the season tackle in practice. Not live bodies, at least.
Yeah. All right. Enough of that game yesterday. There's a couple other quick things. Saturday is the final home game, and it's senior day. And what's that like? Did you do one or two of those?
I did one senior day. I didn't do the first one because I knew I was coming back again. So I was like, I don't want to do this whole thing again. You did the Jake Luton 3 senior days. Who was that?
Jake Luton. I think he did 3 senior days.
I never understood that. I'm like, man, if I'm coming back next year, I'm not doing all this again. I'm doing this one and one time only. Senior day special, man. It really is. How many people are there? Is there anyone who's truly? It should be Jaden Robinson, Joshua Gray. Who else?
Oh, I'm supposed to get a list here. I think there's there'll be guys that will go through it that are still on the fence as to whether they're coming back, and so they'll go through senior day and then decide. Or because there's still a lot of guys that have technically could graduate and they might go through it.
I'm just hoping we can send
like
somebody.
Like Skylar Thomas, for example. I mean, he's wrapping up his 4th year. I mean, maybe he's got his degree. I don't know how close he is to the degree, and he could go through it. I don't know that he is, but those type of guys could.
Yeah. I just hope they could kind of make these last few games for these guys special because senior day definitely is a special thing, especially after you've been there so long. Like these guys, Josh Gray and Jaden Robinson, man, I don't even know how long we've been. No, I'm making fun of them, but I was there for a long time too, so no worries.
Yeah, you were going to say Josh Gray has been there so long he's got grandkids already or things like that.
Yeah, right.
Didn't he came into school the same year as you did, didn't he?
Yeah, but I believe he gray-shirted the 2018.
He did. Yeah, he gray-shirted, but 2008. And Jaden came in your year too, didn't he?
Yeah, they both came in. We all came in the same class.
Yeah. So does it take you out of your game at all senior day, just emotionally, or can you snap into it pretty quickly?
I think you can snap into it pretty quickly. I used to think kind of it did, but during senior day, I'd kind of, unless it was like a guy I was really close with, I was kind of locked in the locker room. But when I went out there for my last day, if anything, it was even motivational. Just like, man, like this is surreal. Last time running out of this tunnel. Just like looking at all the fans. I mean, it was awesome. That was also pretty easily snap into.
That was also a huge game too, the Washington game.
Yeah, that was
was that senior day?
Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot on the line that day, so it wasn't like you needed a kick in the rear end or something.
I didn't need any motivation for that game.
Yeah. Who was there? Your parents and your wife?
Yeah, my parents, my wife, my sister. That's really it.
Yeah.
Yeah. My brother couldn't make it. He was playing his own game and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, then the last thing, the game is obviously important too. It's Washington State. There's a lot of there's a lot of storylines that'll be coming out of this game. The two leftovers. I think one of our guys I think one of our guys referred to this as the Codependence Bowl.
Wow.
The two teams left behind.
You guys are cooking us.
And then Washington State, they're coming off a loss to New Mexico, and so their CFP thing pretty much shot. So be interesting to see, how the Cougars bounce back from that, and whether Oregon State's got anything left. I mean, they got any pride, I suppose. We're going to see we'll see a decent game on Saturday, but I don't know. What do you think we'll see on Saturday?
Whatever you got left, this is the time to let it loose. These coaches have been hiding anything. It's time to show the world. Let's see something.
Yeah, I don't feel like we've seen enough gadget plays this year.
Yeah,
it feels like it's time to see like 3 or 4. I haven't seen a fake punt in a while either. That's another one that seems like it's going to show up here at some point.
Let's get some special teams kind of wins in there, man. Let's win special teams at least. Hey, I would say that's one phase of the game we probably were pretty. I would say
that was what I wrote that at the end. I said, that's the one thing that you could hang your hat on was at least Josh Green was. He averaged 56 yards on 4 punts.
That's awesome.
Had that one that dropped at the 3, blocked a field goal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about kickoff coverage. They only had one.
Yeah.
Punts.
Just mix that with some good offense and a little bit of good defense, and we're cooking with hot oil.
Yeah. I mean, until it's over, I guess you can't say it's over, but they got to beat Washington State and they got to beat Boise State. So I mean, that's a tall order, man.
That's a tall order. You're right.
But it's not like the Cougars are a team that they've had your number for quite a few years.
And don't remind me. I don't like those guys.
And you were probably like 1-5 against them?
I can't even. Yeah, I think we won one game against them. That was when Cam Ward was there.
There was 2 games. I mean, two. Well, all 3 of the games at Pullman went right down to the wire. I think when you were 2019, obviously was a 54-53 game. The one in last year was last year. Trying to remember last year. Yeah, last year you lost they got out. Remember they got out of the gate real fast, and then you guys came back. They still won, and then there was the game in 21, I think, where you guys were moving the ball up and down the field, but then they scored late or something and won by like a field goal or something.
Yeah,
they all went right down the wire, and Washington State won them all.
Yeah, I'll never forget when 2020. They had like a wide receiver, and I remember Isaiah Dunn told me this, but like they were chirping at each other, and then he was like, "Yeah, we don't lose to Oregon State. We've never lost to Oregon State." And he was just like, "Damn, he's right."
Yeah, he was. But there was a time when Oregon State couldn't lose to Washington State. Before you came there.
Yeah,
there was a period like in the early, like from 2010, I don't know, 8 to 10 to 14, Oregon State couldn't lose to Washington State. Now it's just the other way around. But
let's bring that era back.
It just takes one game. Yeah, well, we'll find out Saturday. It's a 4 o'clock. I keep saying it's 3:30. It's a 4 o'clock kickoff. So good time. Good time of the day for a football game.
Beautiful time.
You gonna be there?
I won't be there for this one. Saturday's been tough for me, but I'll be there in spirit.
Try to watch it on TV or on tape or something.
Yeah, I like to get the full. It's kind of hard when you're there in person to kind of see all the overview, and I like hearing the commentating and whatnot. But I'll be there in spirit.
Regardless, I'll grill you about it next week. Find out what you thought of Game 11. So
all right.
That's gonna do it for this week's podcast. We'll be back, like I said, next week to talk about Oregon State. Game against Washington State, how senior day went, and then we'll take a look at the last game of the season, Boise State, on a Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. So we'll see you next week.
Go Beavs!